What's up, you guys? It's Twinlesstwin here, and today I'm really excited to be bringing you a VOD review. This VOD review is brought to you, and it's a match versus Wizards playing Blue Red Frog. Bones, what do you think of that? Yeah, everyone in the last video asked for the cat cam to come back, so here's the boy. Oh, come on, look more excited than that. This is going to be a fun VOD review. Okay, we're going to let him go. He just thought he was getting a treat, which he did. But we're going to get right into this VOD review. So, yep, I'm going to hop right over. And here we are. We're going to be looking at this match versus Wizards playing Blue Black Frog. So, what we're going to do here is we're going to have the desktop audio. So, you're going to be able to hear the players' thoughts. And then I'll pause throughout the video and give my own thoughts. So, let's just go ahead, get right into it, and we'll see how this match goes.
Alright, this hand's pretty good on the play, I think. I mean, I have a turn 2 frog.
I'm gonna turn their audio up.
No complaints.
It's a little
Oh,
quiet.
I'm on the draw. What am I talking about? I'm still keeping.
Okay, so starting with this hand, is it a keep or a mulligan? I think having Psychic Frog is always great for any hand. It's probably the most powerful card in our deck. Now we do have Consign to Memory. We don't know what our opponent is playing. We have a pretty good feeling they're not playing Energy because Energy tends to have Gigantha. We also can guess they're probably not playing Storm because most Storm lists tend to have Gigantha. So, they could be on a variety of decks still. Modern's a pretty wide open format, but that could inform something like, okay, we're on the draw without a removal spell or Bowmasters. Is that okay? Well, the good news is when they don't reveal Gigantha, a lot of those decks give you a little bit more time to find that interaction. So this hand becomes more keepable, in my opinion. If they reveal Gigantha, this hand I think has to be a mulligan. Like 4 lands. Consign is kind of mid. I think it's actually pretty reasonable against a lot of the energy builds these days, and it's actually reasonable versus Storm too. So it'd be decent, but we just don't know how good exactly. And then just not having a Bowmaster or a Fatal Push, I think I would lean towards mulling this on the draw. Specifically on the play, I would definitely still be keeping this hand versus the Gigantha Companion. But on the draw specifically, I think it's going to end up just being a little bit slow. Without Gigantha, I think this hand is a reasonable keep. So let's go ahead and see what's going on. Alright, so we keep, and they have Scalding Tarn. Alright, we draw Preordain.
Wonder if it's a mirror
And
match.
we're passing. I like this play. I think that, using your Preordain turn 1 when all they've done is play Scalding Tarn is going to be really tricky. They could be Jeskai Control. They could be Blue-Black Frog, right? So there's a lot of different decks that they could be playing. And we'll Preordain differently depending on which deck they're playing. So I'd much rather, either get a Surveillant or consider here. Okay, so a second Thundering falls. You always have to be careful of stuff like this. It makes me think they're less likely to be Jeskai, more likely to be just straight up blue-red. So even small things like that, I think, give you a lot of information. So we go for Undercity Sewers here. I guess I'm okay with that. My thought is okay, what are we... So when we fetch the Undercity Sewers, I always think, how likely am I to surveil a card into the graveyard, right? So spots where you'd love Undercity Sewers is anytime you definitely don't want to land. That's a good time to fetch Undercity Sewers. But if you're ever in a spot where you would be okay with a land, say you have 2 or 3 lands and you'd be drawing your 4th land. The 4th land is the one where it's usually okay, I'm kind of okay with that. You just don't really want a 5th land. I'm less likely to want to fetch the Sewers. I'd actually probably rather save it for later. And getting an island and casting Consider there has the benefit of fueling our Murktide more quickly, so there is some benefit to consider. And just in general, I guess you want to ask yourself, if I get the Surveillant now, how likely am I to actually use it? But yeah, I think it was fine there because we knew we would bin any land, and we did bin a land.
Preordain.
Okay, so we preordain here.
Don't really want to miss any land drops.
So yeah, we preordain and we top keeping the land as well. So I think that maybe walking back a little bit, what I just said, like there are matchups where you really don't want to miss land drops, and if you think you're up against like any blue-red deck, usually that's one where you are actually happy to hit lands number 5, lands number 6, and if that's the case, which you know we probably have seen enough to assume that is what we're playing against, is some like blue-red wizards list with the double thundering falls. That's enough to make me pretty convinced it's not Jeskai. Yes, if you do want your 5th land, then I'm not really sure if fetching the Surveil land made a lot of sense last turn. Maybe I would have just considered to use that card and just keep the Surveil land in my deck to be fetched later, when we're in the end game. But I think topping the counterspell definitely makes sense in these blue mirrors. It makes a lot of sense. I guess the other question is, like, do we want to jam Frog there? Against the blue-red deck, they're pretty weak to Frog, and the other thing is they don't have a ton of great ways to punish us for jamming the Frog. Like, they don't have a turn 3 play that's going to be so powerful that we, like, need to hold up, Spell Snare or consider Consign to Memory. So I would have maybe just put them to the test there and played our Frog, but because in the future they're just gonna have counter spells up, right? And so that actually feels like a good spot to maybe just jam the Frog. Yeah, that's my thought. And we don't consider, I think not considering is okay, because we're trying to play it, like we're trying to play slow and kind of just like figure out
Still wait on this
what
Frog.
every time we draw a card, basically you
Feel the
get
need
more
to play into the
information.
counter magic.
So holding your cantrips is pretty reasonable. Like every time we draw a land, we know that our cantrips don't want a land, but if we don't draw lands, then we want a cantrip to find lands, right? So
One top, one bottom. Alright. Let's cast Consider.
I think I wouldn't have cast Consider there, just because we already knew we liked our draw, so we're not really getting full value.
Fatal Push. I wonder how good that actually is here. Flare of Denial.
Flare of Denial. Okay.
I mean, how much removal they have in hand? think I am going to counter this. See if they have force.
All right, I like that decision. I think that the blue-red deck is a really sweet deck. One thing that it probably has, some amount of trouble with is the fact that it can't really punish you for tapping out on your turn super well. I mean, they can like haste a Drake, but at this point in the game, that's not that scary. We can push it afterwards, and we know that this frog is just really, really good against them. So I'm pretty happy to protect my frog.
Make them deal with it. So I don't think. Well, Fatal Push is good here. They play Tamiyo.
And I wish we had done that
Flame
on turn
Lenore
2.
is kind of scary.
I think that would have been best
Tamiyo
for
into
us.
Flame. Pretty bad. Maybe I was supposed to just let that go. Discard Consign to Memory.
Galvanic Discharge is tough. It's actually one of the better ways. It is the one saving grace for red is like Galvanic Discharge banking the energy compared to a lightning bolt is really valuable. They have Snapcaster Mage, so a lot of the time they can make a play like that and then snap back the discharge, and we can't really afford to play around that a lot of the time. So in this spot, I'm not really sure if I guess that the nice thing is if they have Snapcaster Mage and then discharge again, what we can do is we can just play Murktide Regent while they're tapped low and can't counter it. So this is actually pretty reasonable. Okay, so here I think that there was potentially a mistake made. I understand the urge to not Fatal Push Snapcaster Mage, but Snapcaster Mage is actually a really fine card to Fatal Push from their deck for a couple reasons. One, they could have Flare of Denial here, right? And if they Flare of Denial your Murktide Regent, it's really, really bad for you. Two is they could have Flame of Anor, and if they Flame of Anor your Murktide Regent and draw two, looking for a removal spell like another Bolt or Discharge to finish off the Regent, also really bad. And then three, you have to look at your clock. So if you play this Murktide as a 7/7, it's going to take 3 turns to kill them. But if you Fatal Push, you can play an 8/8 Murktide, which is going to take 2 turns to kill them. And we have Spell Snare Protection. So yeah, I think that this was a pretty big mistake, and I'm not sure if you're going to get punished, but definitely something to consider against this deck in the future. I think that the biggest principle is just the clock piece. Like, that applies to every deck. This deck has additional reasons why you would want to Fatal Push what might seem like kind of a irrelevant creature, but even against any deck, like, always consider your clock, and if you can make it a turn faster, that's really valuable. Yeah, so I like no blocks. I mean, they're representing Flame of Anor here, pretty clearly, I think.
Response. I mean, it's pretty obvious he has another Discharge or a Flame.
Good read. That's a good read.
I'll push the Snappy.
And there we push the Snappy anyways, but
I think he has Discharge. Bowmasters is a good draw, I think.
Nice draw. There you go. I guess we had a 2-turn clock after all. I was wrong.
Ooh, it's crackling great.
Sorry, I realized that I cut off half your face with my own cam. So everyone on YouTube, I hope you enjoy half of Zebo Games' face. It's, you know. Okay, and then here, you go for lethal, but if you think about, like, if they have interaction, you're gonna be better off doing all of this in their upkeep so that they're tapping out, right? So definitely in the future, like, if you have something like that to finish them off, if they're all their mana's untapped anyways, right? So there's no difference between your end step and their upkeep if all
Maybe
their
a
mana
little
is
aggressive,
untapped.
but
So you're kind of just giving them, and you end up winning anyways. You had a really good hand, but
so
something to keep in mind.
let's do.
I like using the sideboard sheet.
Excavate. I mean, Crackling Drake is fatal pushable, so I'm gonna keep fatal push. I don't think consigned to memory feels that awesome against like Snapcaster triggers. It doesn't excite me too much. Harbinger's really bad though, so maybe I leave the one consign. I don't want Deluge either. Let's bring in the Spell Bomb. I mean, they're gonna bring in Stern Scolding. I feel like this is too much removal in this matchup too, maybe, but I'm not sure. Try boarding like that and see.
Okay. Where is the sideboard plan? So
I'm not sure.
I have some thoughts here. I think most of how you board it is pretty good. I would ask myself, like, okay, what am I gonna fatal push? What am I gonna go for the throat? So they basically have up to 4 different creatures they might have in their deck, which is Crackling Drake, Tameo, Snapcaster Mage, and the new Otter that looks at the top 4 and is a card that you can pitch to sack to Flare of Denial. So I actually think Stern Scolding seems pretty good because it hits 3 out of the 4 of those cards. I guess on the draw you're gonna miss Tameo. So maybe it's like the go for the throats, maybe shave. You definitely, I agree, should cut the consign to memory. Like Stern Scolding counters the Snapcaster Mage completely, not just the trigger. And the body is very relevant on Snapcaster Mage because of Flare of Denial, because of Flame of Anor. So I think Stern Scolding is better than consign to memory. That's an easy switch. And then I think maybe like shaving it, go for the throat, or 2 even is reasonable. The only real fear there is like if they have turn 1 Tameo, we only have 4 fatal push to protect to remove it. But I still think that like overall the Stern Scolding is gonna probably be more valuable just because the other 2 creatures, or the other 2 creatures, Snapcaster and the Otter, are ETB triggers, so like removal's not very good against them. So that's my thought on how I would probably board for this matchup. I think, there might be pushback. Like, we didn't even see Tameo, so they might be on a list without Tameo, which I think pushes me over the edge that Stern Scolding is better. If we saw Tameo game 1, maybe on the draw, I'm like more inclined to leave in at least 1 go for the throat or 2, just because I'd be, wanting to make sure they can't slip a Tameo under me and then run away with the game like that. Okay, so let's go forward. And we're on the draw with this hand. And we keep, which I agree with. I mean, we have double Frog, which is kind of our best card. It gets a little bit worse post board because they're probably going to have more counters for it, like Stern Scolding.
Save my surveillance.
I like playing this Dark Slick Shores and
Want those
saving
later?
Scalding Tarn for a Surveil Land later. I still think right now we're in a spot where we're not really sure if we want more lands or not. Like if we draw 4 spells in a row, maybe we do want a 5th land. It just kind of depends how the game plays out, so getting more information is going to make your scries more powerful. We kind of already know that we're going to be playing Psychic Frog. This kind of tells us they don't have Counterspell, or they do have Counterspell, but they also have Stern Scolding. Because if they didn't... Okay, so they have Stern Scolding. They could still have Counterspell. They knew that the only thing they would need was Stern Scolding for a Frog, otherwise they weren't going to use Counterspell anyways. If that makes sense. Flame draw 2.
Okay.
It means we get to resolve a Frog, and we have Fawn. Wow.
Flame of Nor wouldn't be a bad idea. Bad target for Extirpate. That's kind of pretty good against...
I think that's fair. If you're going to do that, you should do it first.
If
I guess you could do
plays
it in the
Snapcaster,
draw
I'll
step.
Extirpate it. But I think that that's a good target for this.
I mean, I think the key idea with Extirpate is to take out whatever they're going to try to Snapcaster back, but... yeah. I guess here now what we can do is like discard Go for the Throat, Scalding Tarn. Sorry, let me let you give your line first.
I don't know if I'm supposed to fight over this Frog here. I don't really want to go down on that far down on cards. Let's I discard Preordain and go for the throw. I can't pitch Force Negation. Let's let the Frog go.
Okay, so you decide to let the Frog go. You're afraid about going down on cards, but here's what I would say. We're actually in a really nice position here to discard cards because we have the Extirpate for their Galvanic Discharge. So very likely, like, they might be playing Snapcaster Mage after we discard, but we can just Extirpate the Discharge, and then they're going to have a lot of trouble killing our Frog, especially because if we discard Go for the Throat Tarn, we have Fawn with pitching Preordain up. So we're going to get those cards back super fast with this Frog, and it's going to run away with the game. Like, I think this was a great game to try to steal with the Frog because we had Force of Negation to protect it, because we were able to Extirpate one of their, key ways to remove the Frog. We're kind of just putting them on, like, a bounce. I don't even know. There's really not very much they can do after we've Extirpated their Galvanic Discharge. So, yeah, this feels like a great time to do that. The only punish would be, like, if they had another Discharge in hand instead of the Snapcaster, and then we have to Fawn, and then they, like, counterspell it. That would be pretty gross. I guess we could, like, Extirpate the Flame of Anor in response. I'm not sure. That would be pretty gross. If they do, I guess we actually just, like, give up, and it's, like, a 2 for 3 in their favor. So it's not the worst. It's like we lose one card, but it's definitely worth risking it here, because if they have Snapcaster Mage, or even Flame of Anor, we're kind of going to be in really good spot to shut that down and then start drawing cards with our Frog. I guess we won't know at this point unless we use the Extirpate. But my guess is, like, fighting there would have gone pretty well. Okay, so we are going to use the Extirpate on the Flame of Anor.
Feel like I can get punished for fighting over it and just be dead on cards.
And they have double Brazen Borrower, Snapcaster Mage.
Wow, their hand sucks.
I mean, the Borrowers would have been decent against the Frog, but not great, because...
Brazen Borrowers... Also, they board in. 1 Soul Guide Lantern.
Yeah, they could have, like, Borrower to reset the Frog, but then they can't even
Crackling Drakes
block it.
are in the deck. Okay. I don't feel like I'm in a bad spot. I'm glad I didn't fight over the frog, I think.
Yeah, double borrower might have been a more awkward spot. Um, yeah, it might have been a more awkward spot for your frog.
What's the way to make? I don't know how to make this hand window bigger. Oh, there we go. Okay. So brazen borrower is petty theft. So,
So the Murktide is like ridiculously awkward versus the double brazen borrower draw. I guess I definitely wouldn't be playing my Murktide here.
I mean, knowing it's just going to get reset. I'll have a blue card to force the other. And it wouldn't be super big. So
excuse me. They're also heavily incentivized not to flash the borrower.
Getting rid of Flaminor with extra fate felt pretty good.
They don't want to flash the borrower because Bowmasters would punish it pretty badly. They do flash a borrower. I think this is pretty aggressive by them to do so. We don't have the Bowmasters to punish them, though. So, interestingly we binned the land off the Surveil. I actually don't even hate a land, really, in this spot, because look at their hand. They're going to have Borrower, which we're going to want to Spell Snare when they Petty Theft our Murktide. And then we would have 3 lands to Force of Negation, a Counterspell if they had a Counterspell for our Spell Snare to try to push through their Petty Theft. So, it might not have been that bad. I mean... I guess we snare this, and then we play Murktide with Fawn up. That also kind of works.
Bowmasters is pretty good. Just gonna wait for them to play out this other Brazen Borrower. They can also Snapcast.
That's tricky because I'm not sure they will. Like if I think they're wise not to play the Brazen Borrower. I guess they don't. They think you don't have Bowmasters because you've tried to Fatal Push the Borrower, but and if you had Bowmasters, you would have done that. But still, I mean, they really want to have ways to bounce your Murktide regions. Like that's a key card in this matchup. So.
Okay, perfect. I think I want to. Probably have drawn into Counterspell by now, so I'm gonna wait. Don't want to tap out. Okay, let's play Bowmasters.
I wouldn't do that. I mean, we know they have 2 X1 creatures in their hands, so And we know they also
They
literally
snap
have
stern scold here.
Snapcasters, Stern Scolding. I mean, we
Don't
can
think
use
I'm
the
gonna fight
consign to
over it.
memory, but it's not even that big of a win to do that. Oh, I would definitely consign to memory this. Oh. Maybe we're saving the consign to
Maybe I
memory
was
for
supposed to stifle that. I don't know what
Vaughn.
else I'm gonna use this on.
Okay, yeah, you noticed that maybe you were supposed to
So they
stifle
have
it.
Brazen
That
Borrower,
happens sometimes. I
two
just like
mystery
kind of brain
nerds.
fart.
I mean, this thing's gonna get bounced, so or countered. See, I don't think it's.
So you're here.
Right
You're like
to
trying
one yet.
to figure out what you want to exile because you do expect them to try to bounce your Murktide, um, which I think is fair.
That.
I like making a 5/5 so that they can't just Galvanic discharge
So
it.
they don't have counterspell, is what you're saying? Cool.
I think if you take away Galvanic discharge as a way to remove the Murktide, then they're kind of priced into using the Borrower. A 6/6 does take a turn off the clock, but yeah, I think you're pretty likely to end up getting into a fight. Oh, I wouldn't.
Maybe
I would
I
just
should
probably
cast
hard
it. That was
cast the
silly.
Fawn. Like, we don't even know for sure if they have Spell
That was
Pierce.
such.
It's not a very common. Spell Pierce is less common these days.
Fine. It's only answers it for one turn, I guess. So.
I guess they could have Mystical Dispute. I'm kind of curious why you didn't consider here first. I mean, it seems like you probably do want to. It makes your Murktide bigger, lets you potentially find something to better understand, like if you're able to protect it or not.
The counter spell here, I think.
Yeah, I would just use the consider right away.
I could have, but.
I don't hate on tapping here, to be honest. I think that it's pretty reasonable because they're probably going to have something for your Bowmasters and just play it on their next turn. Alright, so we immediately fire off this Spell Bomb. I'm not sure if I would have done that. I guess Frog is a good reason to, though. So we did draw Frog. I guess the fear, if they block with the Borrower, you have to be afraid of like a Galvanic discharge in this spot, so maybe I would just Bowmasters pre-combat or something.
Galvanic discharge.
Spell Snare.
You know what? I'm gonna. I should have gone for the throw it.
Right. Yeah, I think that block just is so indicative of them having discharge or lightning bolt if they had that in their list. Should have looked when we surgicaled them. But I definitely would have tried to kill the Brazen Borrower with everything I had. And then I would have jammed the Frog. I mean, I don't see any reason to wait on it, honestly. Like, you're just giving them draw steps to find answers. Wow, Offspring Thunderbird Trap Trainer. get 2 triggers. Yeah, and there's no reason to, do anything now on their end step but to go for the throat. Snare. Resolve a frog. We might have been in trouble anyways, but I think that like not playing the frog gave them some extra time. Like we did a lot of things that kind of gave them some extra draw steps this game. I think we could have kind of pushed them out a lot earlier. If we had made that our priority. So I guess rewarded for holding this, go for the throat. But we just draw a land, unfortunately. And we lose that game. So on the play, we take out 2 Fatal Pushes to bring in some Consigned Memories and the Stern Scoldings. I don't really get the Consigned Memories still, but I do like the Stern Scoldings. I mean, getting rid of the Snapcaster Mage's body itself is really valuable when they have Flame of Anor and Flare of Denial. Alright, heading into game 3. I like this hand. I think it's a keep. I might have preordained on turn 1 because this is a hand where we're kind of looking for like a Murktide or a Frog, but I guess there's a lot of cards you keep, so maybe a Surveil Land is just better. Accidentally click through the end step. Classic. Happens to me.
It's a Surveil there. Let's.
I wouldn't do anything now though.
It was 17 preordained. No, I'm just gonna go.
I mean, if you're gonna preordain on turn 2, you probably just want to preordain turn 1. Like things haven't changed that much. I don't think we need the second Extirpate. Extirpate is pretty much for breaking up Snapcaster. I'm not even sure you need any Extirpates, to be honest. I see some value in 1. Maybe we just want to have 1 in our deck because drawing 2 is tough. Extirpate's really mostly in our deck for the Goryo's matchup and for Flage. There's like less juicy must-answer targets in the blue-red deck. They're kind of just an all-around good cards, well-rounded deck. I still don't hate it to like impact Snapcaster Mage, but to my point earlier, Snapcaster alone, the body gives you the value of Flame of Anor and also the value of Flare of Denial. So already you're like not even denying them full value with the Extirpate. The info on their hand is also pretty valuable. I should add. I think I'd Spell Snare this. I mean, it's a 2-for-1 basically, almost always. So I'm happy to snare it.
Black and blue cards currently. Maybe those are wrong to counter that.
At this point, we're like looking for a land or a creature, so I'm not even trying to get a Surveil Land. Might just get a Watery Grave. If we drew land, we'd be happy. If we drew creature, we'd be happy. So there's not very many draws we actually would bin. I mean, this is a spot where you could like Extirpate to check their hand and understand, is this a good time to gem Murktide? Also, you have a 5/5 and their removal is Flame of Anor, which deals 5. Or they might have Tune the Energy plus Galvanic Discharge, which deals that much. Okay, so... oh, no! Oh, wait, it's okay.
Well, they have Snappy, and I'm going to blow them out with Extirpate, I think.
I would do this in their draw step, and I might have even done it on the end step, because what if they just have another Discharge? Oh... that really hurts.
Oh!
That really hurts. Yeah. I know that you wanted to blow them out with Snappy, but really, I think that I would have just taken my
That was
win.
such a punt.
Like, they pretty clearly had either Discharge or Snappy, and it's kind of 50-50 which. So I would have just extirpated right away after they did that Discharge. And not risked it. Okay, well, they actually had Murktide Regent. Oh, but it was all the cards in their graveyard, so they wouldn't have even been able to play the Murktide there that turn. Brutal.
Okay.
It's small things that can kind of turn a game like this, because I think overall your thought process has been really good. But just considering all of what the opponent is doing and what their actions are telling you,
that
I think is
still on my end step.
Something you could just keep practicing as you play more.
I'm trying to go for the throat.
Yep, we're kind of all in on the go for the throat here. I think topping Consider is fine. Like, a Consider fuels our yard for a potential Murktide, which is another way that we could get out of this, and it also just digs us better towards the go for the throat. So yeah, I'm fine topping that Consider there. I would actually flash Bowmaster, and like the idea, sometimes in like desperate situations you need to do kind of more desperate plays. So I'd flash Bowmaster there, hoping that they try to counter it, and then we can extirpate the counter after they counter the Bowmaster and get more cards in our yard for this Murktide, which then puts us in a position to top deck something like a Consider, and make a Murktide that's at least a 6/6, maybe a 7/7, if we just top deck any cantrip. So like trying to cycle through that extirpate essentially seems pretty valuable to me, and like playing out the Bowmaster could be a way to bait that and get some extra cards in our yard. So that's what I would have done there, even though normally I'd advise to hold Bowmaster for hitting a Snapcaster Mage or a Brazen Borrower, I guess. Or at least when they play a cantrip, playing the Bowmaster in response. But yeah, I mean, at this point, we know that that's not going to work. I think bottom both is fine here. We need to play Murktide Regent or we're dead. But we do have a Murktide that could theoretically trade with them. I just think, unfortunately, they're like...
Obviously, as counterspell,
they're telegraphing Flare of Denial or counterspell, so...
Okay, I could have played that better. Gonna send this one into Paganti.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope that this was valuable. I think this is a really good, well-fought game, Zebo. Thank you for submitting it, and I hope that some of the commentary I had there helps you kind of think about the game and spots where you could have improved. But overall, just want to emphasize it was well fought. So thanks for sending it in. All right, see you guys.